Webcam microphone up close.
Webcam microphone up close.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was
See, but I have the files. I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? Pistols and fondle slap of choice. I don't know that doesn't really matter. Internet, professional wrestlers, and not Jesse Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It doesn't. It's hard to get real information because seriously, they don't want you to have just these two sources. Whenever I try to prove out, it's not. If you expect your government to tell you the truth, you're going to be sadly disappointed. Another one of these things.
Dear Lord, what a dirty old man, huh?
Really? Can't be serious. Is this really how you want things to be? Come on. More hooker, eruptions. Eruptions, whatever.
Like Dave Powers kind of.
Really?
Allegedly broadcast live from Pima Region 2, 3, within the borders of the formerly united and currently occupied states of America. We bring you the Ochelli Effect.
I damn sure know I'm an original. We have all these situations. I'd love to know why it takes 50 years, for
that's that.
For a 19-year-old girl to eventually get up to gumption to put these things out.
Oh, and we are live on UCY.TV radio. It is Chuck Ochelli, and hopefully you can hear me. It is the Ochelli Effect, as we know by all that obnoxious overdub noise and my bumper music. So, what do I do on Tuesday nights? Well, I always do my Liberty Beacon thing, and generally speaking, I have Roger Landry join me, but he's having some issues. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring on Miss Terry Joyce as soon as I can, and get this thing underway. By the way, for those that might be curious about the status of the hate mail that I received, yes, I did receive a more coherent message, sir, and I will be getting to that probably on Thursday. Don't worry, I will air you out, and you know what? I'm still awaiting a response to my email where I told you if you make a Skype contact with me, you are more than welcome to join in. Even if you want to get nasty with me, that's just fine and dandy. Speaking of getting nasty also, by the way, Jim Fetzer and our own Jack Blood, who is also simulcast here on UCY.TV, but also originates with the Micro Effect Network, are going to have a debate on the 29th of this month at 8 p.m. Eastern on AFP radio. So I advise you to go find out about that because they're going to be debating the whole Sandy Hook thing. More on that later, I promise you. And, maybe perhaps I'll be able to even do a post-game wrap-up show on that one because I guarantee you I'll be listening to that. Now, let's just see if things will cooperate and I can add in Miss Joyce. Are you there, Terry?
I am.
My goodness, I'll tell you, the best laid plans of mice and men. I already told my listeners that I was going to have Roger on tonight, but Roger's having some issues. I'm sure I'll have him back on shortly when he gets those straightened out. I was planning on bringing you in the second hour, and of course we had a roundtable idea that we were going to do there, but it turns out we can't. Perhaps we'll be joined by Barry Prince in the second hour. But and Barry has been extremely interesting so far. Every time he comes on, first of all, I had a whole 2-hour thing with him the one day, and then we wound up discussing things with Larry Woods. You familiar with Larry Woods?
You know what? I'm not yet.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, he was one of the most fascinating guys I have had on the air to date. he was talking about free energy and the concept of the energetic world, and we wound up even discussing Egypt and a whole bunch of other interesting things, on the show, which started on a Liberty Beacon night and wound up carrying over into a Thursday for me. So,
Larry Wood does he do free energy?
Yes, he does.
I just met him. I didn't know that he was doing radio shows. I just met him. A group of people called me to join them, and the guy goes by Brain Food, just on Skype. And yeah, I do know who he is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, definitely a fascinating guy, and I'm telling you, all the people that are involved in the Liberty Beacon are fascinating people, including yourself.
I didn't know that he was a Liberty Beacon person.
Well, it just Barry brought him to my attention. This is why. So by extension, to me, he's part of it, and I think he's pretty much on board with the idea. He's very much about decoupling populations, decoupling people from the energy-based corporations. And I'll tell you, if you think about it, that's definitely one of the most evil parts of the corporatocracy that we're faced with right now in this country. So. And look, that even ties to one of the things that really interests you if you think about it, because after all, a lot of the pharmaceutical industry is based on, stuff that is, well, let's see, how can I put this nicely? A lot of it is petroleum-based garbage that really doesn't belong in the human body anyway. And, of course, we know petroleum is linked to energy and all that, and our systems, our persons, we are all linked to the energetic world as well, but the pharmaceutical or the pharmaceutical industrial complex, as I do keep applying that to a lot of different things, but it all does seem to make sense after a while. I was going to have a roundtable discussion in the second hour about hemp, which I know is something that interests you very much.
Sure. I mean, everything what you're talking about it is good for. I mean, I have things I could comment on that right now on everything that you're saying about free energy and why the oppression of it and all kinds of stuff like that. So which is a subject matter that's I'm interested in. It's putting the puzzle together. I'll save it for the show, but I would love to go into that topic.
Oh, listen, I'm all about, we're sort of making it up as we go along here, Terry. So, I mean, look, if you want to discuss spirituality, if you want to discuss energy, if you want to discuss the corporate entities that control energy and exactly how oppressive that whole system is, I'm more than game for that as well. Of course, I just walked in the door here myself, so, it's... I
wanted to ask you if you wanted to be on my show. Would you be available? I actually have a spot open this Friday. It's 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. My time, and it's 2 p. It's 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time. So I keep forgetting what time zone you're in.
Yeah, I'm in the Eastern time zone. Unfortunately, that probably won't work for me on a Friday. If there's something that we can do in the evening, or there's something we can do right now, just the way things are, I'm not really available. It's been kind of crazy. I've been trying to get a lot of things in order because, as you know, I just had a baby boy and just wound up starting a new day job. Hooray, hooray! And really, my scheduling has been like all over the map lately.
Mm-hmm. Sure, that's fine. Right now, I'm recording at some very odd times. The other shows that I'm actually recording out of would be midnight. They're like midnight to 2 a.m. in the morning. And but I could possibly maybe schedule like a pre-record of something in the future.
Well, for you, I would stay up. Okay, we could do a midnight to 2 a.m. record. If it's Eastern time, we could do that. That's not a problem for you.
But it's the Pacific Coast time. That's the only thing. So you're looking at 3 a.m.
You know what though? Again, for you, I would figure it out.
Oh my God, that would be great. And then then I could take that. I mean, it would be on the Time for Hemp network, so it would be we could definitely talk about things that we're talking about now, and then bridge over to the hemp and all that kind of stuff in your views. And, I'm sure it would be a really great show.
Well, the funny thing is, nobody's actually interviewed me personally. I've been on other shows, and generally I've been there to speak about a particular topic. And, in a lot of cases it was the JFK assassination, because that's something I specialized in for a very long time.
Uh-huh.
And that's usually what ends up making me a featured guest. But, look, talk about my views. I'll wake up early for you to do that. That's not a problem.
Oh, great. All right. Well, what I'll do is I'm going to replay a show on this Thursday, but I'll run some dates over the next couple weeks or even long. Whenever, and then maybe we can just go ahead and schedule something.
Sure.
And do that. And I do. It's Tuesday and Thursday mornings, 12 a.m. it would be 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. your time, but 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. is what's on the schedule when you go onto the site.
No problem. Like I said, I'll work that out with you on a Thursday. Then that's what we'll do.
That'd be great. We're not on the. Are we on the air?
Yeah, we are.
Oh yeah, that's the reason I thought we were not. I can talk about it later. I have things I didn't realize I was actually on the air.
I'm sorry. Again, I dragged you in because I didn't have Roger. But it's okay. I think this is interesting anyhow.
I'm like booking you for a show. Okay, I apologize. I don't know why I was thinking like I would hear music, and I don't know. I was weird, but that's already happened.
Yeah, I brought you in after my bumper, because my bumper sounds really rough through the Skype. I kind of like it, but I'm starting to get, I don't know, it's a little chaotic because it's a bunch of my voice overdubbed with like this punk riff I played years and years ago, and it's a little crazy, so I usually try and like bring my guests in after the noise is already quieted down. So, yeah, it does sound odd, and it's just usually like a Skype conversation, but you can hear me sort of, stumbling around, making sure that I don't leave any dead air. That's usually when I'm on the air. Otherwise, I relax a little bit.
Oh, well, that's all right. I mean, there's sometimes where some of the best stuff is said when you don't know that you're on the air.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've had times where, I don't know, sometimes with when I broadcast on when I broadcast a few times on Time for Hemp, the board op would have made him, forgot that we were back or something, and forgot to tell me that I'm coming back. So we're still talking as if we're on the show, but then we don't realize we're on the show, and I'm like, oh great. But whatever. But a lot of the stuff really came off good. It's like, well, I guess people were meant to hear that. There are no accidents.
There you go. Even the accidents are meant to be, right?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know about it. In my philosophy, I don't know about every case, but I have seen accidents be coincidences, and what I thought was an accident didn't cause a complete pivotal change in my life. What I would have thought was an accident. I don't know. Have you ever experienced that, or I wonder if other people who may be listening do. I mean, I know I'm not the only one. So.
Oh no, absolutely. Plenty of things that are unplanned don't mean that simply because you didn't plan for it to happen doesn't mean that that's not exactly what was meant to be. So that's something that I see all the time. I mean, I probably wouldn't even be alive if that were if that weren't the case sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you hear those stories where, somebody, like something got, to be dark, I mean, bring this up right away, but like the Twin Towers, or there was another disaster that just happened recently, and, and somebody goes, oh yeah, it was the shooting that happened out here, and this one kid goes, I woke up late, I missed, I was late for school because I overslept, and you're thinking, wow, that may have saved his life.
Well, that was a funny thing, too, is that actually I was supposed to be in New York City that day, quite honestly, and then wound up having to work and was kind of not happy about it. I had to work during those few days there, and I was going to take the first part of the week off. So actually, I should have been in New York City and was planning on actually going into the area where the Twin Towers were because, quite honestly, they were on a lunchbox when I was a kid I'm not even sure if the lunchbox was created before or after they finished the towers. But the thing is that there used to be a lunchbox, and I've not seen it on the internet anywhere. Probably somebody could find it, but there was this thing where there was King Kong standing with 1 foot each on one of the towers, and it was, a composite photo, obviously, But there was this whole thing where I was supposed to go to New York City exactly during that week. So I hear you, and I've heard other stories of people that were supposed to take planes that day and everything else that didn't. Look. We're still here for a reason,
Yeah.
I mean, after all, we wouldn't have Family Guy if certain things didn't go wrong. Because Seth MacFarlane was one of those guys who was supposed to take a plane on September 11th.
Really?
Yeah, he was supposed to be on one of those flights, apparently, I learned recently. And so, there's yet again something that wouldn't be, I mean, I know it's not, an earth-shaking event that cartoon got made and everything, but it is part of the culture at this point. And,
it is kind of, though. I mean, Seth MacFarlane really brings up some questions and pushes the envelope through his cartoons.
Well, and that's been a subject that I've actually wanted to touch with you on the air before, and I haven't really gotten to it because we wound up talking about, your arrest of being at the dispensary and stuff like that. And yeah. I didn't want to, really push on you because, you're a comedian, by profession and all that, and I hate doing that to people where it's like, well, listen, since you're a musician, because I was a musician for years, I always hated it when it was like, well, sing something for me, and it's like, look,
yeah.
I'm not working right now, okay? But to be honest with you, I really would like to know, since again, that is part of your life, part of what part of what your process as a human being has to involve comedy, has to involve stuff like that. I'd love to know your viewpoints actually on some of the things that have become, part of the cultural zeitgeist in a way, or as time has gone on here. And MacFarlane, although he is very left-wing oriented in a lot of ways, I think has made some very interesting, significant social statements in that cartoon. And quite honestly, it's one of the things that I use to decompress. I enjoy stuff like the more adult-oriented cartoons. And Family Guy is definitely one of the more intelligent ones out there. And, of course, anybody who's in new media, alternative media, we all appreciate, iconic people from the past, like our friend there, who I'm going to mention, right?
Yeah. Are you saying George Carlin?
Well, George Carlin was somebody who was part of it, yeah, and Bill Hicks. I think that they're kind of, in some ways, if you want to think about the truth movement, that's the truth movement's comedians. I think also there's, you have Lee Camp, and then there's also, Russell Brand, really, I feel is pushing the envelope and doing certain things that's creating a certain kind of awareness for people. And I do feel that that's comedy at its finest. When you are, being a cultural satire to what's going, you're a satirist to our culture, basically, and pointing out certain truths. The comic mind, the comic knows, there's something about comedians, the good ones, I'm not to be snobby about it, but I think really that's true, are able to see the lie. And I do feel that there is somewhat of most comedians that see that are also idealists. So I'm generalizing in some ways, but I've also read about it too as well. So I'm not the first person to have this viewpoint. No, absolutely.
But there, there is some of pain in that, in viewing that. There's an unsettledness that the comic or the comic mind, whether it's the writer writing a cartoon or it's a stand-up or it's a play or whatever, will use that as a way to get the truth out in communication. And they almost, if you see that and you do have that emotional reaction, you almost can't control it. there's a little bit of a cowboyish attitude with a comedian. They are not a person who plays by the rules, obviously, because even though you're making fun of something, as well as, there's always this, oh, he was swearing, or, that was so offensive. I'm so offended that you have that viewpoint. I'm so offended. But at the same time, I feel that people have a fascination to want to even go there, because even the most hated ones and the most criticized of that sell out arenas because of the fact that they do it. So there is something to it.
At the height of his career, like a guy like Sam Kinison, I loved Sam. Okay?
I did too.
And I was really, really sad when he passed away, actually, and it was really unfortunate. And I know that, he's not exactly one of the guys that people think of as a truther kind of comedian or anything like that. But the truth is that a stand-up comedian or somebody who does a cartoon, like you were saying, you actually are afforded a greater amount of freedom because, look, at the end of the day, it's jokes. And if it's based in this, this painful reality sometimes, it allows you sort of a greater latitude to be able to make that satire stick and to provoke thought with pointing out some of the absurdities in life, and a guy like that, like I said, again, I know he's not super popular, let's just say, in the truth movement or in the in the communities that that we would be focused on at this point in time, but I'm telling you, great. I thought it was great stuff. I always did. I loved Sam, and but all these guys that push the envelope and provoke thought, in my mind, are well worth listening to, and are well worth sort of absorbing. And even when they come from that sort of left wing perspective, like a McFarlane does, there's still a whole lot of very interesting stuff being said there, if you take the time to really digest it. And by the way, Barry Prince just joined us.
Hi, Barry.
Hi, Terry. Hi, Charles. How you doing?
All right, sir. I was talking about you in the opening part of my show here, and I was explaining to Terry how great it was that that Larry Woods was on and all that. Still, I can't thank you enough for that, because that was really really eye-opening.
Well, you don't have to thank me, Charles. It's my pleasure to introduce Larry to anybody, and any opportunity I get to expose Larry and his information via Truth Radio, I jump on the opportunity. Larry's had some incredible developments here in the last couple of days, guys. I was just talking to him about an hour and a half ago. I was actually around noon, I guess I was talking to him. I was in here for lunch, but they've had some opportunities come up in the last couple of days that are just astounding. And we are going to see this generator become a reality in the very, very near future, Charles. I'm going to get Larry back on next week. Maybe I could, if you want, I could even call him in today and have him share what's going on. But he was just bubbling today. So there's some very, very powerful people all of a sudden getting behind what Larry's doing. And it's all good. That's all I can tell you. It was pretty cool what he told me today. So if you want me to pull him in, I can even pull him in. He can explain to you. But they are making leaps and bounds as far as getting financial backing to go ahead and go full bore on exactly what they want to do with these generators.
Well, I'll tell you,
that to me was exciting.
Oh yeah, that's great. And I'll tell you what, if Mr. Woods has the time on Thursday, I would make him the featured guest again, and we could discuss what's going on. And I'd love to hear all about these developments from him.
Well, I'm sure he would jump on that. Larry is the kind of guy that will take opportunity anytime he can now to expose his knowledge to people. So I'm sure I can speak for Larry. I'm sure he'll be glad to join you, Charles.
Oh, great. Please do pass that along, because I would absolutely would really love to have him on again, because not only does he expose the idea that there are all these possibilities, and he's got the one that he's working on, but also he's talking about the validity of other possibilities and the interconnectivity of the energetic world is what I called that show that I did with him.
Well, that's exactly what it is, Charles. These guys are just one small part of the puzzle. There's literally thousands of people now around the world working on free energy, because it's becoming knowledge that it is a reality, and now you're getting more and more people playing with it, and starting to do research, looking at information on the internet. I had an incredible experience the other day, guys. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking about free energy with two journeyman electricians that own businesses here in Terrace, British Columbia, and are very, very versed in the normal education of electricity and what is taught in school. And they started to do some research themselves into free energy. We started talking about magnets. We started talking about the neodymium magnets and the fact that now magnets are so strong it only makes sense that a magnet can do work. They're being applied now to all different kinds of generators. And we have a show on Sunday called the Knights of the Round Table. What it is, Charles, is a group of, I think maybe Larry told you about this, is a group of inventors from around the world get together and discuss their leaps and bounds every week. It has been joined by more and more inventors every week. Last week there was 19 inventors from around the world on the panel. This Sunday we're going to have these two electricians join in and throw some hardcore questions at these people about free energy. Their interest levels are spiking. And it was really cool to see this actually happen in my community, where people now are actually starting to say, hey, there is real validity to this, that this isn't a fallacy, that there is more than just credence to what we're talking about. And this is coming from guys that are respected electricians in this community. So that was a very encouraging conversation, to say the least.
That's spectacular. That's spectacular. What I was talking to Terry about, though, to be honest with you, is we were just discussing the the social relevance of comedians and how how great statements can be made because after all, Terry's a comedian. I mean, you're familiar with Terry, right?
Oh yeah, Barry and I go way back.
Yeah, I've known Terry for months.
We go back before the Liberty Beacon, because it was you who brought me on your first show. And you had Roger Landry as a guest.
Yeah, I remember that. Wasn't Rick Simpson in on that call too?
No, Rick Simpson was on another call that you brought me in on too. You invited me to be on your show when you brought Rick Simpson in, which I really appreciate. By the way, that was a great experience.
Well, it really is a small world, guys. Because the other day I talked to Rick every couple of days, and the other day I had the pleasure of introducing Rick to Larry Woods. Now, Larry has some connections now inside governments in this country, in this world, that are still very, very negative towards the hemp plant. And through putting Larry and Rick Simpson together, now they're talking about this and talking about that. All of a sudden we have a meeting set up, and I can't divulge a whole lot about this, but with one of the ministers of health in one of these countries is going to sit down. And me and Rick Simpson are going to have a talk with this gentleman. This is going to happen in the next week. And we're going to have a talk with him for a couple hours about exactly what's going on in the movement around the world. And maybe we can make inroads in a country that still is looking at it very negatively. This country just actually legalized the use of medical marijuana for terminally ill patients. But, of course, we want to get it way past that point. But the fact that they are starting to look at it now is very encouraging. They were hanging people and executing people for possession of this incredible plant not so long ago. So there you go. Things that happen, man. You put people together, and all of a sudden the energy starts flowing, and Rick is jumping all over this. He's had an incredible interest in free energy for a while. He's been looking at demonstrations in Europe. Where he is right now, he's in Czechoslovakia. And it's just cool how everything's kind of falling together here, and these people are working together all of a sudden. So I wanted to share that with you. That was kind of cool. But we got this little meeting going now, and this guy is the head of Ministry of Health for this country. So,
and that's awesome news. And here's what I take away from what you just said is that, and I say this all the time, the more that we begin getting back to interacting with one another, the more we begin discussing things with one another and sharing our ideas, sharing our dreams, our hopes, our grandiose ideas. Let's just say the more that we introduce ourselves to one another and begin to connect with each other as human beings, I think the better this planet is going to get, one way or another. And it doesn't matter what the subject matter is, as far as who you're trying to interact with, the more that we connect, the more that we educate people, the more that we enlighten and open each other's eyes just a little bit more, there's nothing negative that's going to come from that. So,
exactly.
I'm really, really excited to hear about this though too, because after all, I have two people that are very, very interested, obviously, in the hemp. Let's just say hemp as a topic.
My favorite topic.
It's your favorite topic.
It is my favorite topic. One of the other things I'm going to divulge, and this is in the works for next year, is we're going to do another tour of British Columbia and maybe even into Washington State, but that would be an iffy, with Rick next summer. So he's coming back to British Columbia, and we're going to do another tour of BC. We did one last year, and it was the best time I ever had in my life. We did 9 cities in 14 days, and had tremendous response. And this time it'll be even better. So that's something to look forward to next year for me. Get the old motorhome on the road, and 2 old hippies will be driving down the highway. Well, that's what it is. We drove around the province in his old motorhome. I got a 1972 or I think it's 74 is my motorhome, but it looks good and it runs good, but it's just old. So it was kind of a funky 2 old guys driving around the province for 15 days in his old motorhome. It was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. Got to meet some really cool people in the movement, and we're still hearing about it now. So we're all looking forward to next summer. We'll get the word out. You'll have to come up to BC, Terry, and meet Rick.
Sure, yeah, I would like to come up there and meet him. Is he in Canada right now, or I thought he was in?
He's in Czechoslovakia right now.
Oh, Czechoslovakia! Wow.
Yeah, he was in Zagreb, and now he's in Czechoslovakia, and then he's going somewhere else this week. He's talking to government officials, doing talks, probably 4 or 5 times a day. He's doing presentations now. He's on a relentless campaign over there, and they're very, very, very receptive to this as opposed to North America. We really have to break down the barriers in North America quick and bring this plant to full being.
You know, one thing I didn't realize about the Canadian laws surrounding marijuana. I just had Joe Fort on Freedom of Choice on Time for Hemp last night. Well, at 12 a.m. in the morning, and yep. he was saying that that you are not allowed to grow the plant there. You cannot, like you yourself, legally are not supposed to be growing your own plants.
No, unless you've got a license to do it, you're not legally allowed to grow in Canada. It's still an offense. You can get a license to grow it very, very easily. And through medical licenses, you can now grow. I mean, they've had this in place for 3 or 4 years now. A lot of people abuse the system, and that's why they've cut back on it. But people have licenses to grow in their residence for a set amount of marijuana, some of them up to 40, 50 plants. Depends how they're consuming their marijuana. If they are using it as an ingestible and making cookies and edibles out of it, you use a lot more as you would opposed to somebody that's smoking it. So, but yeah, that's still in place, Terry. I mean, you can grow it if you get a license, but you have to go through the rigmarole of getting a license, getting your doctor to approve you for the medical use of it, and from there you can get a license to grow a certain amount in your house to provide yourself with your own medicine. They're trying to take that away right now, but they haven't succeeded in doing it yet.
Okay, see, I was under the impression that now it's not legal for recreational use, is it, in Canada?
It's a misdemeanor. It's not legal for recreational use. It's a misdemeanor still. They just take it away from you, and you get up to a certain amount, they just take it away from you, and your name goes on their computer system. Over a certain amount, they'll charge you, and you'll have your day in court.
So all of the dispensaries that are out there, I mean, or the places where you can get it, are medical marijuana. They're not a place where you can just sit around, and you have to have a license in order to go into the place and let's say there's even a show going on in that place. You have to be an approved patient in order to enter the building.
Exactly,
okay.
And of course some of them are kind of just closing their eyes to it, and there's always abuse in the system. But Vancouver seems. I'm going to have to talk to Joe and find out exactly what's been going on. I haven't talked to him for about a week or so, but I know there's quite a few things going on inside the city of Vancouver as far as the dispensaries go, and I'll try and get a little bit more up on it. Exactly where they're at.
because I was confused. I was working on getting that information last night during the show, but for some reason I didn't get it as clear as what you've said right now. So I thank you for clarifying that for me. Because
providing any wrong information, everything I've just said is as far as I know. I haven't heard any differently. So.
Okay. Because in Washington, now we've legalized it for recreational use, but if you're using it for recreational use and you don't have a medical marijuana recommendation or license or whatever, you can't grow it yourself. You would have to go to one of these dispensaries and buy their marijuana that is way expensive. I mean, right now I think they announced an ounce was $450 for just an ounce.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that's just
people afford that.
ridiculous. People are just screaming about the prices right now, and yet the only places to go to that you can purchase it legally, I guess, to have it on you legally would be from one of these places. And you cannot grow it on your own. Now, Colorado, you can be you can grow it. Anybody, whether they have medical marijuana. I think medical marijuana has more plants, but you're allowed a good amount of plants that you could grow yourself in Colorado. Mm-hmm. Even for recreational use. And so it's interesting to see how all these different places, how the different states are categorized in that. But now I know with Washington, the alcohol or the liquor board is in charge of it. So maybe that has something to do with it. That damn liquor board.
Got to get their taxes out of it one way or the other, right?
I was just going to say they have to figure out a way to tax it. I mean, you can't do something that's good for people or that's enjoyable without, the government having its hand out. That's for sure.
Well,
absolutely. They want their money, right?
I just hope we all stand up and say, hey, to heck with you guys. We have a right to grow this plant, and we're going to grow it. And you ain't going to tax us. Who gives them the right to tax something that's provided by the earth and has so many benefits for us? Bull.
Well,
total bull. But, of course, they're going to try and do that, Jerry.
Well, that's a greater issue, and then you can even bring this down to growing our own food.
Well, that's what it is. We're growing our own food. We're growing our own medicine. We're growing our own energy. We're growing our own fiber. I mean, it's a win-win. Everything about the plant is a million win-win. And for them to be able to try and step in there and tax it now and control it, it'll just be like alcohol. And I, as far as I'm concerned, that's all wrong. This is a plant that grows on the earth. It's been on the earth for thousands of years. It's been used by the human race for thousands of years. Just in the last 100 years, through the power of the Rothschilds and the banks and the corporations, it's been taken away from us. And I say bunk to that. Let's get it back to where it belongs, widespread in our community. And you'll see the earth heal.
Right.
That's my feelings anyways, Terry. I'm dead set against governments controlling this.
But they're not going to let us legalize it without it. That's what they seem to be saying to us. Like, it seems like in order to get it to be legal in the States, you have to make a deal with them. Otherwise, because that's the whole game here. It's beyond marijuana. It's about everything. So what my thought is like, what is the issue? How do we go around this? I mean, how do we make that? To me, the issue with cannabis is symptomatic of how things are done. And it's how they're done that really needs to be changed. And maybe what we're hashing out here, if people wake up to it, we could maybe do something different about this. And then from that example or role model, the rest of the world may be able to copy it in different situations.
Well, I see exactly what you're saying, because here's the trouble. In order to get the legalization aspect taken care of, a lot of times what they want is for us to play the game here, but the game is rigged, and and you're right, it is a symptomatic kind of thing. It's really just one of those things that the system is trying to control, to seize its own piece of, as I like to say, and what they're doing is wrong though. But I totally understand what Barry's saying. Is what is the real agenda here. After all, it is one of those things that is simply provided by the earth. It's a plant, for God's sake. And, it seems almost illogical that we would have a problem with growing it and everything else. But at the same time, I have often pondered this question myself, is what do we do actually besides basically breaking the law and arguing and taking our fines when they come and ending up on lists and everything else. I mean, what are we supposed to do? This is always like the thing that I wind up pondering about it. I mean, I don't like the idea of having to play the game in order to get it legalized, but at the same time, if it pushes us a little bit forward, I'm kind of a mixed mind here with this, personally.
Yeah. My feelings are, Charles, if once they get the control of this and they tax it, we'll never have it free like it was designed and meant to be for the human race.
Mm.
But, right now, and again, Portland or Oregon has got one of them made the ballot to legalize it for recreational use. And so I don't know. I mean, I have to look at it more to see how the money's being dispersed and how. I mean, I know, again, I think the liquor board is also involved in this and getting some money, although people don't pay a sales tax in Oregon, whereas Washington and Colorado do. I don't think California is legalizing it right now because of the fact that there's so much money being made illegally by people that are somewhat in between being illegal and legitimate business kind of thing going on. Mm-hmm. That there's always greed around it. What's wrong with this picture is that there's greed coming from all levels. And yet, I think really when it comes down to it, it's a moral issue in the sense that it's like, well, it's the mentality of, well, I want to get mine. As long as I'm taken care of first, the rest of the community doesn't really matter. And I've seen this mentality from trimming weed on a pot farm in Humboldt. To going into to the more corporate aspect of it and viewing just how everybody is about it. I feel that maybe our entire monetary system or the way that we see, we need to be service to others, not just to ourselves. The way for us to thrive as I think as the human race, we have to be concerned about our brothers and sisters as well as our own beingness. Once we can grasp that as a collective, then perhaps that will affect the change and how our laws are set up and how money is dispersed.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and it's just one of those things that it's just difficult to wrestle with. And as usual, every time the government gets involved with something, there's always going to be trouble. One surefire way to make something difficult and problematic on all levels is to allow the government to get its hands in it. So I hear you there, but at the same time, in the current situation, I mean, what else do we do besides try and play the game and push the envelope a little further in the right direction?
Well, on the positive side, you look at states like Colorado and Washington, and even though they have paid taxes in, so much so that Colorado's brimming, whatever they owe to all the different areas that the money was designated to, it's already filled up beyond what it needs to. They've got too much money now, if you can imagine that. And the economy is swinging over there. And you know that there's going to be people that are going to be traveling to Colorado or Washington because it will be a vacation spot, like a United States Amsterdam. So it's creating business all the way around, including all the ancillary businesses that are connected to this business. So if you're looking at a boom of our economy, we're looking at it right now. So that in and of itself, I don't think is particularly negative. The issue, though, is that you have to watch the government taking over maybe the Monsanto marijuana, because apparently it exists too, and this control issue of product and who is going to have what, how they're going to have it, according to what I think is a more sinister agenda, is something that is very, very prevalent. And, right? So maybe it's now that we decide to step up to that and go, no, we're not going to accept that deal from you. We're here, we'll go here, but we're not going to go there because we know what you're up to. And what is that conflict? How is that conflict going to play out?
Exactly. Do we want to be using genetically modified hemp plants to make our medicine out of? Come on, guys. Give your head a shake. When the government gets control of this, that's what they'll do. They'll crossbreed our plants with some kind of crazy mutant strain of something. And boy, I'll tell you, watch out. We know how sinister these people are. I don't want them controlling a natural plant. I don't want them to be able to control our seed base or have anything to do with our seed base. This is a stance that we have to take. It's all wrong. Governments have no right to control this. None. And all it's going to take is people to rise in a voice together and say, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to grow our own pot. We're going to make our own medicine. We're going to make our own fiber. Are you going to throw 300 million of us in jail? I mean, to me, it's all wrong. I know it's a step. Everybody says it's a step forward. Okay, so we're legalizing. The government's going to allow us to legalize it. It's just a little piece that you're giving us to pacify us. That's not the end game. The end game is to make this plant widespread around this planet used, because if we don't do that, then the planet is going to die. This plant has the power to heal the planet. And if you let governments control it, it's going to be the same story.
Well, if you could in brief just explain what you mean by this plant has the power to heal the planet. Just give me a couple of examples here, because
Charles, listen,
I'm often asked that question, like, why do you think it's that big of a deal? Why do you think it's something that should absolutely, because to me it just seems like a no-brainer kind of thing.
Well, let's start with deforestation of the planet. How would you like to put a stop to all trees being cut down on this planet? Because we don't need to do that. It can all be replaced with hemp. I defy anybody listening right now to prove me wrong. That's one example. Let's talk about medicine. We're looking at the effects of the cannabinoid system on the human body. The fact that health organizations now around the world are stating that the discovery of the cannabinoid system in the human body is the biggest medical discovery of the 20th century. This is coming from world-renowned medical institutions. Journals are writing about it. Doctors are starting to study it. Only 13% of the medical institutions now in the United States are teaching the cannabinoid system. It should be 100%. That is another example. The implementation of hempcrete in our society as a building product. Tremendous benefits. I could go down the list. I mean, we're talking about fiber that is 3 times as strong as cotton, has no chemical imprint in our water, uses a third of the water it does to produce cotton to make, and is a biodegradable. When you're finished with the T-shirt in 15 years because it's finally worn out, you throw it in your garden. Everything about the hemp plant is a no-brainer. It is a win-win-win, and that's why governments are working so hard to keep this information away from the public. Rick Simpson said to me the first time I ever met him, he said, Barry, this plant has the power to heal this planet from the inside out. It can detoxify nuclearly radiated soil. It has an incredible root system, incredible effects on soil when it's used. You plant raw hemp into a field and let it grow for 3 years, and the next year put in a field of lettuce or a field of tomato or anything you want to grow, and watch what happens to that crop. It has incredible effects, and all I say to people, start doing some research. Look at it. I'm not an expert, but I know enough about it to know that everything that we've been taught right from childhood, the use of oil, the use of chemicals, the production of pharmaceutical drugs is just a scam, and we have been duped, and this thing has been taken away from us, and it's time for people to bring it back. If we want a future for our children, we have to make these changes now, because the planet is dying, guys. It's simple. That's not fear-mongering. That's not me saying that. That's thousands and thousands of scientists around this world and people that really know what they're talking about. People who, when I do research, I listen to what they say because I want to make sure that information comes from credible sources, are saying, yes, the biosphere is dying. The planet is dying. If we don't make changes, we are going to leave one big pile of caca for our children.
All right.
And those are just 3 of the things.
Not to mention,
I could sit and talk. We could talk for hours about it, Terry.
Yeah, well, not to mention what it's doing, that people it's killing cancer cells, that people are going into remission from using it, and yet, I mean, obviously, obviously Rick Simpson oil, and you know what happened to him when he, went to his government and said, "Hey, I found something that's curing cancer." They put him in jail.
I know.
So what's up with that? That's when you start to begin to wonder why is this being denied to us? That's the big question. And then when you start to peel that onion, you start looking at what's really going on. That maybe we have a healthcare system that is not meant to heal us. It's actually meant to make money off of this and kill us for profit.
Well, yeah, because we have a sick care system, first of all. We don't have a health care system. And regardless of what other bills they decide to pile on top of it or what other augmentations they want to make to the existing insurance scams that they have going, it really becomes irrelevant because at the end of the day, the drug companies, which are pushing a lot of petroleum-based products onto us, I mean, let's just hook it together for a moment, okay? If you look at the oil companies and the oil concerns, tell me that the petroleum-based, pharmaceuticals have nothing to do with that.
Yeah, 70% of them are now being made in China. What are the conditions of these labs? What conditions are these being made under? These are pharmaceuticals coming from China, guys. What you said, Charles, is so true. The pharmaceutical industry and the doctors are designed to make you feel better for a little while, but bring you back because they cannot survive if they don't have people coming in regularly to buy prescription. And I have no respect for my doctor anymore. They have broken their oath, as far as I'm concerned. We know now that pharmaceutical drugs are the fourth biggest killer. Drug interaction is the fourth biggest killer of people in North America. That the industry made $65 billion last year, and yet last year was a record-setting set out for payments against claims against the industry. And this is only going to get bigger and bigger. They write it off as the cost of doing business. So we had to pay out $10 billion or $6 billion. Oh well, and we kill how many people? So what? Cost of doing business.
Yeah, exactly.
Because people that don't care.
If you can
all natural, buddy. Natural.
Yeah, exactly. If you can make $600 billion, but it costs you $10 billion because you had to pay off, a few families for grieving or whatever.
A few people died. Oh well, who cares? Yeah. Our profit margins are still there, and that's the way they look at it. And doctors, the same thing. The doctor has to go along with the agenda, or he doesn't get a paycheck. In Canada, when a doctor sends you for chemotherapy, and this is a fact, and I defy anybody out there to prove me wrong, he sends you for chemotherapy, he gets a check for $5,000 from the medical system. Chemotherapy fails 97% of the time. Well, let me think about that for a minute. And you love your doctor? Come on.
Well, it is failing. It's a draconian method of curing cancer. It appears that way. And yet, the more people that are having results, and again, in my personal life, I know people that are in remission because they used Rick Simpson oil or cannabis oil or whatever you want to call it. They are killing their cancer by using this. And they were told, hey, you're stage 4 or you're not going to make it to see Christmas. You better get your affairs in order. And they decided to use it. And now they're alive today still. And there's more and more people talking about this. How long are we as a society going to put up with that before we say, wait, what is wrong here? And why can't I have this? And why isn't this legal? Why can't I give this to my loved ones? Because I want to see them be okay.
Yeah, exactly. We have to get people asking those questions.
And there have been studies now which have shown that this may actually be rather helpful to the ever-growing population of autistic kids.
Yes.
This stuff is good for seizures. This stuff is good, and there are plenty of people with all kinds of seizure disorders, whether it be from poorly healed concussions, or from other medical maladies, or from medical treatments, so-called medical treatments. There are plenty of people that are in a whole lot of pain that can actually benefit from the use of an oil or the use of the plant in one way or another, either in edible form or even just in some cases to smoke the thing. Okay. There's different ways of vaporizing it and everything else, and it just seems to me to be one of these very sort of no-brainer kind of deals. And again, exemplifies, the problems we have with the controllers at this point, of the population. The people whose interests seem to be well above our own. And the corporations, this is always what I point to because they're the easiest ones to point at. Not just the petroleum industry, but just like Rick was talking about, the doctors actually benefit when they prescribe. And look at me, I'm doing air quotes on the radio here. They prescribe things, which give them sort of a payoff one way or another. Even in America, I mean, they're encouraged to prescribe these different new drugs and things from these different drug companies, which again are all petroleum based and generally cause more problems than the person started out with and everything else.
The side effects are a joke. They're a joke.
They're not side effects.
Does not even compare. Does not even compare. I'd rather suffer. I'll take a few extra. I'll take some extra gas or something. Little lactose intolerance. I don't.
It's frustrating, isn't it, Terry? When you look at the big picture, it's frustrating because, like I said, doctors are hypocrites. They are sworn to take your best interest to heart. That is a doctor's oath. Yet, as soon as they go to medical school, their schooling is paid for by the pharmaceutical industry. They have a little book that they're given. This is the drugs that treat this disorder, and if you step out of these boundaries, you're not going to get paid by the medical profession. These are mandated into what they're doing, and to me, it is all wrong. It is a hypocrisy in their society that people really have to recognize. And that's, like I said, that's our mission here, Terry, is just to try and educate people and through our thoughts and our concerns, let people know that there is alternatives. We're talking about cannabis. There's thousands of other things that treat cancer. The chaga plant that I've talked to you about, Terry and Charles, I mean, we're seeing people in my community that are seeing total remission in cancer strictly by drinking a fungus that's grown on a birch tree. The earth will provide everything we need, and my eyes in the last couple of years have been opened up to this, really opened up. We have so many things that are beneficial on the planet, and mainstream do not want us to know about this. But it's our mission to inform people. The chaga, boy, there's one you got to really look into, Jerry. I mean, people that are using it in my community, it's gone viral.
Really?
Really. Like, okay, at our my two buddies go down to the farmers market every Saturday, and they have a display in chaga, and we're on Chaga Canada on Facebook. But the first couple of weeks they went down there, people started, looking into it, and interest was starting to gain. And they were selling, $400 or $500 last week. They went up to $1,300 in sales in chaga. People are coming in and just buying bottles of this in our community, and they're smiling. And this is just one thing in our community that has all of a sudden gone viral, that the fact that this fungus that grows on our birch trees has an amazing effect on the human body. Chinese have been using it.
Is there a website that you can order it from? I mean, is there a way that...
I'll tell you what, I'll just go on Chaga Canada. Now, Chaga is available in lots of places in the world. The most important thing about Chaga is that it's harvested in the coldest month of the year when the birch tree is in its dormant state. If you harvest Chaga in the summertime when a birch tree is in its foliage state, there's very, very little nutrient in the Chaga. But in the winter, the tree becomes dormant, everything goes into the bark system, and the chaga is full of betaine acid. It's been proven to be one of the best antioxidants known to man. Chinese have been using it for thousands of years. Europe started to gain momentum in the 16th century on chaga. They were using it for arthritis, for cancer, for lesions, having an effect on all kinds of disorders in the human body. And that's just one example, guys, of what you have to look into if you want to be healthy and you want to have a vibrant life. Look into everything the earth provides. Get away from your doctor's office. The more you put vibrant stuff in your body, the more you're going to go, wow, I do not want to go see the doctor. I won't go to a doctor now, guys, unless I'm dying or I've broken an arm or a trauma. That is the only thing that'll ever get me into a doctor's office, period.
How do you spell that? Is it C-H-A-G?
C-H-A-G-A. Chaga.
Okay. Chaga.
Okay, and look into it. And we're on Facebook, Chaga Canada. And
Chaga Canada.
Chaga Canada on Facebook. It'll bring you up to our website. It'll show you the concentrate that we make, Terry. I'd love to get some of this in your hands. And that being said, Charles, I committed to another radio show here in a couple of minutes. So I'm going to have to leave you guys in a minute. And I want to thank you for letting me come in and babble for a few minutes.
Barry, before you go, I want to say one thing, though, because you were talking about the different uses of marijuana and cannabis. Actually, I just found out that there is a marijuana lubrication that apparently is supposed to give a woman 15 minutes worth of orgasms.
Wow. Well, there you go.
So it's not only save the planet, but it can make a woman happy.
There's 50,000 uses of the hemp plant, guys, so that's probably in the list there somewhere, Cherry.
No, I
do have to step out, Charles and Terry, but I want to thank you again, for having me on for a few minutes. And Charles, I'd love to join you again. I'm sure I'll get in touch with Larry for you, and I'm sure he'll join you on Thursday night. And next Thursday night, or next Tuesday, John Bartholo. Have you ever heard of him, Terry?
John Bartholo.
In Vancouver. I'm getting on your show. I'm going to have to leave, guys.
Okay.
So, have a great day, and thanks for having me on, Charles.
Thank you, Barry. I really appreciate it. Great information.
Love you. Bye-bye.
That was Barry Prince, who also is going to be doing that show on Shake and Wake Radio pretty soon. And I think it's August 1st they're supposed to launch, so look for him there also, and I guarantee you he'll be back on my show again.
Yeah, Barry's great, isn't he? I mean, he can talk forever.
Oh, I know. If we had gotten a little more time with him, I would have been more than happy to talk to him about it, because I really want to get into these mushrooms, because I knew nothing about them. But again, I didn't know nothing about them, but I knew very little about the medicinal qualities, let's just say, of a lot of these different funguses. And actually, Barry's got me now digging into that because, as I stated to him on the air, I've had problems with pain and things from old injuries and stuff like that, and I've tried to stay away from utilizing any of the normal canons of pain relief and things like that over the past few years, and definitely is something that I am going to be looking more and more into. So hopefully we'll do a mushroom show at some point.
Oh, that would be great. I'm into mushrooms. I'm also interested in different plants and herbs, a way of healing ourselves naturally. Keeping our body alkaline so that we don't get cancer, because it is proven that cancer cells only grow in an acidic environment. One of the cheapest ways of doing it, and also a lot of people, this has also been known to be curing cancer as well. I've gotten in trouble for saying curing cancer. I've been slapped on the hand. You can't say cure. It can't. I don't know. I'm supposed to say kills cancer. I guess I'm really kind of tired of all the political correctness about everything in some ways. But baking soda in water, drinking baking soda in your water is also, I guess I've heard that cancer is a fungus too, possibly, and that drinking the baking soda keeps your body alkaline, and will also has been known to heal certain cancers. And there's some stuff coming out about that as well. I mean, what does baking soda cost? 59 cents?
Yeah, I've heard stories about that, I got to be honest with you, and I've never really been able to track down anybody that would, explain to me exactly how that works. But generally speaking, this is something that's come up a bunch of times, that if you maintain, more of an alkaline condition in your body, it is definitely it makes you more of a cancer-resistant organism, apparently. And this is something that we all need to think about, because, in the past generation or so, we have looked at a 600% increase in the diagnoses of cancer, and it certainly would behoove us to, if it was something that would cost something as little as baking soda in your water, regardless of how wonderful that seems to people that are still out there drinking the bottled sodas and things. Let's be honest, if that's going to save your life, it's definitely worth it, right?
Well, there is a Nobel. There's a man, I think it's Otto Warburg. I might just Google this for a second, just to recap the name. There was a scientist that won a Nobel Prize for discovering that cancer cannot grow in an acidic environment. So that is a proven fact. The means in which to get there, one of them is alkaline water, and that's what I believe. That's what the baking soda is doing in your water too. Is making it it's a cheap way to get your water to not be acidic. Or to get alkaline water. There's also, and I have one. When I move, I'm going to be able to hook it up because I wasn't able to hook it up here. I've got it's Kangen water. It's a filter machine that also does alkaline water. And it's not only is it helping people, you can't say it cures anything, but the fact of the matter is that Japan, like all of the hospitals have one or have this type of machine, and a large portion of the households are using this, and I think they have the number one less death rate in the world. Is in Japan, and then the makers for this machine is from there as well, and I believe that is true. I mean, it's mainly, and then I also heard that cannabis also is something that keeps your body alkaline if you're ingesting it and everything. So I feel that there is something there with the acidic alkaline body. God, that guy, he was the motivational speaker with the big head and the big teeth. Anthony Robbins.
Tony Robbins, yeah.
Yeah, Tony Robbins. That's how I remember him, the guy with the big head and the big teeth. He talked about it. My mom actually got me like his discs, and I listened to his discs, and one of the things was he was selling products and things like that were meant to keep your body alkaline. And that's why we get sick many times. The thing that you don't want to do is drink those acidic. I'll tell you what drinks are really, really bad. Red Bull, Monster, all of those are just poison. Even when you pour alkaline water into them after, to try and make them go alkaline, it goes back acidic right away. It's Coca-Cola, terrible. All of your Perrier, all of those soda waters that you can buy, just terrible. If you could take that out of your diet, I would do so. I usually don't drink them. I mean, once in a while, I've had a weak moment where I had to go on stage and I was at a bar and I was feeling really low energy, and I was like, maybe I just better do a shot of Red Bull right now. And I figure, what's going to happen?
Yeah, well, nobody's perfect. I mean, but I'm just saying that in general, it's one of those things that needs to be avoided. That's for sure. And of course, every company that sells us, consumable liquids seems to have one of these energy drinks now, right?
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. I know that the carbonated ones are not good. The ones that come in a little bottle or have different properties. I can't say for those ones.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, some of those concentrates actually are based on different herbal methodology that have nothing to do with it. But when it's a mass-produced sort of flavorful, the Mountain Dew-based Kickstart or any of that kind of stuff, it's really not very good for you. Obviously, I mean, there's so many different reasons why that stuff is bad for you. It's amazing. I mean, from the color to the flavors they use to the the taurine and all this other nonsense that's in there. It's just brutal on the body, and it does nothing but promote all kinds of illness, regardless of the energy that you might seem to think that you're getting from it. So it's definitely one of those things that needs to be avoided.
One of the things that I feel positive about is that perhaps, and this may be part of the change or making us free from the system, is to learn that we are capable of healing our bodies by very simple means. And that if we were to do that and actually eat good food, not have toxins going into our bodies, not having chemtrails, being blasted at us every 2 seconds, how long is our life? Would we even age at the same rate that we're aging now? Sometimes I feel that we are being conditioned to only live during the span of that we will be productive as a workhorse in this particular world. Once that time is up and we're not able to generate the cog, you're not a part of the cog of the wheel into the machine of everything else, then there's I'm sorry, but there's an objective for extermination at that point.
Yeah, it does seem that way. That if you're no longer productive from a worker bee sort of standpoint, that's about where your lifespan is supposed to end. But what is missing from that equation is the fact that, and quite honestly, I always learn a great deal more from people that have been have survived, let's just say, the system. There's a great deal to be learned from those who have already lived a life. And I think that might be part of the agenda as well, because, when a person dies, so does a whole lot of their knowledge become obscured from the rest of us. And this is something that I think has been part of the plan for quite a while. Is to make people as busy as possible so that they can't share ideas. They don't have time to, articulate what it is they have learned in their lifetimes. And so that, knowledge actually becomes even more finite than it really is. This is definitely part of the agenda.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've been doing some studying and reading some different documents, and one of them really stood out for me. It was something that I read about. He was a doctor, and this was back in years ago, like 1970, 60-ish time frame. And he was having a conference with other doctors, basically saying what the agenda was. And it was the one thing that stuck out on me was that fast food restaurants and bad food is out there for people to use by design, as well as drugs too, because people get addicted on them, and they exterminate early. They eat Jack in the Box every day, or they're poor income and they can't afford anything else but McDonald's, and that's what they're feeding their babies. Then that's what happened. Those babies grow up with that poison, and so health issues will take them out early. And the only way, part of the survival of the species, those that were able to realize that these things were bad and have self-control and take care of their bodies and not go into these areas or drink to excess or do these drugs and become an issue to the rest of the collective, those were the ones that would be surviving this. And the other ones that couldn't handle it or weren't able to recognize it, well, you're just gone.
Yeah, sort of like promoting suicide, really, because one way or another you're shortening your lifespan by participating in all these things. At one time, and people don't believe me when I say this, but at one time, White Castle hamburgers actually had a doctor's endorsement on it. And they had some sort of study there where they, show you people that had eaten nothing but White Castle hamburgers for a long time, and they were perfectly healthy and everything was all fine and good. So White Castle hamburgers are actually part of a healthy diet. This was something that was used commercially by that restaurant. This was back in the early '60s, I think, if not the late '50s. I'm sure if you Google it and you look around, you'll probably be able to find some of these little films. Propaganda explaining that, but again, all this stuff, including the genetically modified crap that we can buy in the supermarkets or at Wally Mart, all of that really contributes to hunger, and when you eat all this stuff that isn't really food, your body is still looking for nutrients. So this is why we have so many, overweight and obese people that continue to eat who seem to be addicted to food. They're not addicted to food. They're just responding to their natural reaction to being starved for nutrients.
Well, here's something that also I'd like to point out. Even our films are telling us things. For example, I don't know if you. One of my favorite films is Logan's Run. And actually, it's that film. I've interviewed the writer of Logan's Run 2 times now, George Clayton Johnson. He was a good friend of Jack Hare, and he's a hemp person. He smokes marijuana, and he's an advocate for it, and has been for a really long time. But he wrote Logan's Run and Twilight Zone and the first episode of Star Trek. And even in that film, I feel that that's a metaphor. Of course, the plot line is that nobody lived over 30, and in this world, and when you have this little dot in the middle of your hand, and when it went from I believe it was from red to white, it means that it was time for you to go into the Oracle, where if you didn't fly or whatever happened in the end, then you were just exterminated. And it's this extermination sort of mentality that I feel is not only, it looks like it's there. I mean, again, somebody could say, oh, well, aren't you paranoid? But I mean, let's break this down. And when we're talking about it's no surprise that there's free energy. There's free energy. There's been free energy around for a really long time. Tesla technology. How many times do you have to tell somebody, hey, you know what, we can run our car on hemp oil, and yet we're either people just don't believe it, or we're still buying into the fact that we need to use gasoline to run our cars, and that we have to have the regular forms of electricity to happen. I heard and read, and I believe this, is that there's underground cities that the elite live in all over the world. And as well as a friend of mine wrote a book about how there's one underneath the Getty Museum, and the elite are living with free energy. They do have that technology, but those of us that are on top of the planet are not allowed to have that. And so we're living we're ruining the earth and everything else. And so if that's true, then why is that going on?
Yeah, this has been something that's come up many times. The underground facilities, the underground shelters, and things like that. Yeah. That have been constructed for a long time, and that are supposed to house, those that can afford to be housed by them. You know what amazes me, though, Terry, and I got to say this, and I always think of this when people start talking about these underground cities and everything, is that, how is it that fools think that they're going to escape the scourge of radioactivity on this planet? I mean, that stuff is going to seep into whatever it is they have. There's no way that they can secure themselves forever from it, And that's always been one of those sticking points to me, is like, to continue to let this stuff proliferate across, the surface of the earth, regardless of how long it is you think you can, live in your incestuous situation in an underground city. I mean, doesn't anybody ever sort of come up with the idea in their minds that, that radioactivity will wind up getting into it anyway?
I don't know. I don't know the details on that, and I don't know how far under the ground these cities are, or what's protecting them, or anything like that. I would imagine that they may have decided what that was. I mean, maybe they probably. I mean, I would assume that they would have the materials to encase themselves to where they're not going to have radiation happen to them. Would be my guess.
It just seems like it's one of those things that nobody can control. I mean, not even, but then again, look, the truth has been very much obscured, from those of us who are left out here in the on the cursed earth, and so I mean, there's many, many possibilities, but I always wonder about that, is exactly, how far can that really go? Is there any way that somebody can be safe from all of the poison and everything else, which is, pretty much overrun the entire planet? I don't see how, and I think that it might be a grave miscalculation on the parts of people that are participating in that stuff. I mean, but that's just my opinion. And then again, like I said, you know, I only have a limited understanding of these things, so maybe it's just one of those, you know, well, Chuck just doesn't quite fully grasp all of what's going on here.
I don't know. I mean, I do have a personal friend that wrote a book. It's called Cities Under the Plane, and it's written by a guy named Stephen D. Kelly. He's one of the Revolution Radio hosts on Revolution Radio, and I read it. And knowing him personally, I do feel that he's a credible source on what he's talking about. And of course, he worked with laser technology. He and his brother created the laser technology and the weapons or the warfare that was used during the Ollie North administration, as well as several other secret agents, etc. And so he was contracted with the CIA, and through that experience, and then through associations, he stumbled upon a connection to the Getty Museum and discovered that there were actually cities underneath. There was a temple, Solomon's, like it's equivalent to Solomon's Temple. It was meant and designed for the Queen and the elite and the blue bloods and everything like that, and that a lot of the artwork, the really good artwork, is down there. And according to his testimony, this is like where there is, they already have the free energy and the free technology. I mean, it's basically not meant for the rest of the people. Now, again, I might find out, I could come back on the show in 2 months and go, you know what, that thing I said on the show on this day, it's not true. It's this. But for me, it doesn't surprise me. And it doesn't surprise me that this wouldn't be going on. And personally, I do feel that we are going through a planned genocide on a large portion of our population, simply by looking at the actions of our healthcare system, and by the denial of the hemp plant and the hurdles that have. I mean, if you have an answer, if you have a cure for cancer and an answer to global warming, and you really wanted to help people survive, wouldn't it all be changed over instantly? And wouldn't have it all been done a long time ago? Because this is not new information.
Yeah, this is true. And it is one of the sticking points, of course. But, with the condition of the population, the way it is intellectually at this point, I mean, can we even imagine that people would even embrace this if they were told? That's the question.
Unfortunately, as long as people can go to their ATM and are able to still have money left on their Starbucks card, they think that everything is okay in the world. But I feel that that not everybody is actually staying in that mentality. That there are people like you and I having a conversation on this station. If you had asked me to talk about any of these topics 7 years ago, I would have not known what to say. Not one word could I have probably joined into the conversation. So I can only give my own testimony of my own personal growth for being able to be where I'm at right now. And if it can happen to me, then it's obviously happening to other people. And maybe that's our saving grace, is to keep having these discussions, whether there be with friends on a personal level, or whether it's something that we blog about, or a radio show that we do, or a joke that you tell, that somebody is going to go, aha, I get it. And the fact that you said it makes me realize that truth may even be more valid than I originally thought. I mean, if somebody says something that you're going, I'm not too sure about this. This isn't working for this isn't working for you. This isn't working. Then do the research on it. You get on your computer and research about what's really going on, so that when you come back in a rebuttal, you have some facts. But what annoys me is that when you start to tell people something, they slap you down with these same old kinds of things that they've been programmed to say, like I'm racist, or that, blah, 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 blah. And I go, until you can like lift on the veil and look over and peek on the other side of the story, don't even have a conversation with me. You're wasting my time. And I mean, it may sound like I have an attitude, but you know what? I feel that I'm at this point where I have an attitude, because then you're just you're a dog chasing your own tail.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the problem is in a lot of cases. I mean, I meet people on occasion that, are somewhat aware and, but not quite there yet. And it's very frustrating because they do drop right to those sort of pre-programmed answers and things. And this is why I thought it was an interesting point of discussion about, like I said, about comedians and comedy and stuff like that, because, to me, they are always, and I've always taken the time to study exactly what comedians are saying, where it's coming from, what types of information is being dropped sometimes during people's routines or during cartoons and all that kind of stuff. And again, when you see satire of certain situations, it becomes extremely enlightening. I mean, like I was talking to you about the cartoons and all that, and the different stand-ups that I've appreciated over the years. I mean, there's a very long list actually of stand-ups that I thought were somewhat enlightening in one way or another, despite the fact that in a lot of cases they were very much locked into the sort of false left-right paradigm. And
that's still going on, and that's something that I feel kind of I'm disassociating. I love my friends that are comedians, and I've been on some shows. I was on a show called The Free Speech Show. It's on ComedyNation.com, and it really helped me to begin to have this kind of discussion and do material on a topic and be a pundit in a group on those types of topics. But at the time, it was very right-left, and at the time I believed in right-left. But now I don't believe in right-left anymore. And I've had some of my friends that believe in right-left politics tell me, "Oh, you're sounding when I say, hey, what does our vote matter? Because I don't think the elections are real anymore." Then I'm into this right wing pundit category, which confuses me because I'm still being pegged on the right.
Well, and what's weird about that too is that it's funny because it depends on exactly the context. Because during the time, okay, if you were making that comment in the year 2000, you would definitely be a left wing conspiracy theorist. You would be one of these people that, oh, gee, I guess you thought Gore actually won the election, which is not the point of what you're saying, but it's one of those things that people latch on to and sort of just parrot because it's, again, what the mainstream was repeating at the time. If you were so inclined to follow let's see, at the time, let me think back a little bit here. I can't even remember who was really the left-wing mainstream at the time. But
you're Sean Hannity. It seems like it's your, somehow you're connected to, Fox News in some way. And again, I mean, I haven't really broken out that much. I mean, I haven't, said anything per se yet on stage. I mean, I've been working on I do monologues on my Freedom of Joy show. I work on making them funny. Having a funny commentary or satirical commentary about the topics that that I want to bring up to the subject matter. But and again, when I'm talking to, let's say, a Revolution Radio audience or something that's in the new media, they will probably understand that what I'm talking about a lot more. They're not necessarily topics or subject matters that I would really bring totally into a club situation, and some of them that I'm working in right now, because they would probably stare at me and go, what? But then again, there are some people that are going to get it, so it's kind of like I sort of test the water out to see how far or how much that particular audience is responding to what I'm saying. Now, there's some places that I walk on and they're totally tapped in, like I said before, and there's other. What I'm working on right now, as because my goal is is what I'm doing right now. I feel the calling to say stuff and to talk about them and to explore what's going on in the world. Even if I don't know all the information about it, I can kind of go, well, this is my gut instinct on what I think is really going on the most according to what I'm doing. And these are the guests that are bringing that dialogue to the table. I never want to say I know everything, but you can make a joke about something and hear people laugh, and you know that they're thinking about that too. And what really matters overall is that we come together and being able to see what the truth is. And then once we realize what that truth is, will humanity, or will we collectively get to a point where we can really make a change on that and take us into something way different than what we're living right now? I mean, because in a way, I think we're teetering. We're teetering on either being total destruction and annihilation of the human race as we know it today, to actually bringing ourselves out of it and having a totally different expansion of the human race and being our fullest potential and being allowed to be our fullest potential. So in which direction are we going to take ourselves?
Right. I mean, it seems as though more and more, I think the majority of the population is really being offered the blue and the red pill, and it does seem as though the opportunity for people to become quite a bit more enlightened, the opportunity for people to re-engage with their fellow human being is actually becoming a lot more prevalent than I think some people want to believe at this point. And I think it's one of those situations where, and again, now, just to go back to that context issue, right now, because you're talking about, how the government shouldn't be involved in things and all that, what you're going to be categorized as is a right-winger. You're right. I didn't want to let that pass without saying, yeah, you're quite right. They do say, well, then you're just one of those guys who, or you're one of those women who hates Obama, and therefore you're more in the category of Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly and all that kind of stuff. And meanwhile they're missing the complete point here, which has nothing to do with picking the red shirt or the blue shirt here. So it is extremely instructional to remember that. Sometimes when we're dealing with people that are still sort of captivated or enthralled by that left-right paradigm, that it has more to do with their attacks on you, or their sort of criticisms of you have a whole lot more to do with how limited they are when it comes to truly dissecting what's going on the planet here, and what's going on politically, socially, and and psychologically, or psychosocially, as I like to say. And it's got a whole lot more to do with their viewpoint than your own. And I think a lot of people that are starting to become aware, awake, enlightened, are discouraged sometimes by some of the people that are around them. And I really like to encourage people to think that what you're doing actually is planting the seeds for later. Even if you're not necessarily getting through to someone right now, I think it is definitely worthwhile and something very valuable to remember that it may be something that comes up later. It may be that your statement to that person, your particular dropping of some sort of knowledge on them, is going to come back later to sort of haunt them when something else reinforces it. So, it's something that should be kept in mind. And again, I say that comedians are the most interesting sort of presenters of this stuff, because quite often, even going back to, and I know that this is, prior to my generation or yours, but, if we go back to Lenny Bruce even, the stuff that he was talking about, which, is extremely tame and almost mundane at this point, according to the changes that have gone on in our society, and what is acceptable and what is not, from a politically correct standpoint even, if you go back and you look at what he was talking about, there's still a lot of validity there, regardless of the shock value or anything else. And they are really the great commentators in a lot of cases, because it's hard sometimes to begin the process of provoking thought with serious discussions. And I just think that's what the value is there in comedy, really.
Lenny Bruce is something that as I've matured, and studied of what he did. A lot of people are confused, thinking it's about being vulgar and saying swear words. That's just part of it. Because there's that free speech aspect that why should we? That's the very basic level of being controlled by being controlled. But what he was really talking about was a police state and the fact of the hypocrisy of the Roman Catholic Church, which
right.
And so that's why
that is really why he was attacked, and that is really why, toward the end of his life, the only place he could perform was San Francisco. If people have circulated that film of him reading the court transcripts, from his trials and all that, and look, if you look at it on a very sort of shallow level, you can find that value in, okay, so he was the original shock comedian and all that kind of stuff, but no. The reality here is that he was being shut down because he was really provoking thought and really trying to stretch the boundaries of what people considered was normalcy. And pointing out hypocrisy was one of the big things that Lenny did. And that is very much lost on a lot of the sort of standardized presentations on the man at this point. Like you said, they just point to the vulgarity aspect of it. And meanwhile, it really tame, to be honest.
Was his death really real? I mean, did he really commit suicide on a heroin? I mean, yes, he apparently he had a history of heroin addiction, but I began to wonder. I mean, Oscar Wilde wrote this quote. The only way to tell the truth and not be, assassinated is to be funny or be humor. But I wonder if some comedians have not actually been taken out. And one of the things that I wonder about is Lenny Bruce. Looking back at what really took place, that's what they do. They make it look like a suicide, or oops, they had a drug addiction. Oop, they're gone. And in terms of Bill Hicks, he was only 33 years old when he got what is it? He got cancer of the bladder.
Right.
Right. So, was it given to him? Because they can give people cancer.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's been a lot of possibilities, and I don't say that all of them are correct, but there's been a lot of reasons why people took, entertainers out. And I do believe there were a lot of entertainers that were purposely put into positions, at the very least, that, that would kill them. I mean, look.
Look at Michael Jackson. Mm-hmm. His death is suspicious. Look at Tupac. Look at John Lennon. I mean, the people that are saying things in their work and their art have risked their lives. I feel this way, that this is a possibility. Who knows? I mean, when you see somebody die from a disease or however, but definitely a drug overdose is really suspect. And if you think about what was going on culturally during those times, of course they wouldn't want us to wake up that much then. And humor does have that kind of possibility, as well as music, as well as artists. Artists are used for the opposition. Artists are used to perpetuate commercialism, and they're also used to keep us socially engineered. And unfortunately, a lot of actors and comedians don't realize that that's what the game is. That you're going to perpetuate their agenda. And then there's some artists that are awake. And for me, I feel a real entertainer, a real artist, and I'm not saying just an entertainer, because I think entertainer is different than being an artist, but a person who's expressing thoughts and ideas and their viewpoints, in a painting or a joke or music, that you are able to actually elevate society just like you're able to control society, because either one works in either way. And that those people that were part of a huge cultural movement influencing people politically in their idea that was against the agenda of the powers that be that shouldn't be in power were taken out, just like they're going to take anybody else out that isn't, following along with the proposed agenda.
Well, right, and also sometimes, there is sort of a useful sort of strategy behind perpetuating the idea of sort of nefarious purposes behind some of these deaths as well. Like, for instance, okay, I'll tell you one thing that I actually spent a little time studying, because there was at one point a whole sort of belief system that was circulating about 3 deaths that occurred to 60s types musicians, Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, and Janis Joplin, especially, right? Mm-hmm. So I took a little bit of time because I was in New York City and I happened to know a lot of musicians there, and I was able to get myself sort of immersed in the culture there. And Hendrix spent a lot of time in New York City. And actually, I wound up meeting with and spending a little bit of time with the woman who was with him the night he died. And, a guy like Hendrix, though, was like an accident, really. This was not a guy who was taken out for any reason, but this was also a guy who was very much awake and different at that time, and it was useful to somebody to let him be taken out. And don't forget, he was also a guy who had, to the best of my knowledge, I think he had served in Vietnam and all that, so he had a whole lot of different experiences, and was really saying something very much different. And it's hard sometimes to sort of segregate which ones are being used by the system to control that opposition, and those that are actually part of the opposition. It's a very interesting topic, and one of those things that I think is well worth exploring. But comedians, musicians, artists, you're absolutely correct, are exactly the people that usually tell us the truth a little bit in advance of us learning it, even for ourselves. Your point about Logan's Run and many of the other theatrical releases that sort of gave us the precursor ideas that really are actually existent in our society today are definitely part of that as well. And this is why, I still think that there's some value in examining entertainment and entertainers and their agendas as well.
Well, I think it's really valuable to look at what's being produced by Hollywood. Hollywood is a Druid word. It means it's the Hollywood tree that makes the sorcerer's wand. It's the magician's wand. Mm-hmm. So the very basis of what Hollywood about is manifesting a certain type of reality or belief of what is real, what is happening, that these are the moral standards of people, of our world. And if you look at certain movies, even going back and examining them, I mean, I just recently got interested in Blade Runner again, which is one of my favorite films, but it's about cloning.
No, I love Blade Runner.
And it's also about, being a slave. And really, that one scene between the Rutger Hauer character and Harrison Ford, where Harrison Ford's almost falling off the building, and Rutger Hauer says, now you know what it feels like to be a slave. And yet that was what his character was too. Unbeknownst to him, he was also a clone. So, and if you watch that film, there's a pyramid in the middle of Los Angeles in it, in terms of what the future is. So, they're bringing this old, ancient, Egyptian or Babylonian, esoteric, or maybe even alien. I mean, where are we going to with what our history might be in a film it's right there, right in front of us, as something as part of the future. Is that on purpose? I feel that those kind of things are on purpose. You know, you can look at, Kubrick's last movie, the Eyes Wide Shut. That was about MK Ultra, Monarch, Butterfly stuff. The orgies, the young girl, basically a hooker. All of this is revealing, what according to what he was saying is happening, and this is part of what the elite is doing. This is the underground, the underbelly of it. And, it does exist in Hollywood on some level. I do feel that there's something up. There's something up with this. Roseanne has now come out and said that she was under MK Ultra mind control. And there's more than meets the eye as to what is going on.
Right.
I don't feel that. I mean, some people go, "Oh, well, everybody that works in Hollywood is Luciferian," and no, they're not. But we're talking the people behind the people behind the people, way behind the people. Those guys that, the people that own the entertainment industry from the inside, there is a sect of that. This is used to program us, and it's done on a continual basis. And it's not making us smarter.
No, absolutely. And the continuous allegorical deposition of slavery in one form or another, the continuous, even when you have the protagonist being presented as the hero and as the one who frees the slaves, actually, at the end of the day, slavery seems to always win. These things are not there by accident. They're not being produced, repeatedly and reloaded once again. For anything but to sort of infuse the psyche with the concept of slavery. And this is one of those things that I'm very glad that you see Blade Runner the same way I do.
I love Blade Runner. I've always, I've just, I don't know why. I've just, ever since I first saw it, apparently it was like, didn't make a huge splash at the box office, became more of a cult film.
Right.
But what's interesting is Sean Young is now outing Hollywood like what I'm talking about. And, she has been on a show called Red Ice. I've listened to her give a couple of interviews, and I find it interesting that she's admitting that this stuff is going on in Hollywood, and she was in that movie.
Yeah, and I even, when I had Jack Blood on the air, I told him that, just like him, I find it very hard sometimes to just be entertained by a movie or a television show anymore, because I see the hidden agenda in a lot of cases, but, it is, again, my eyes as compared to what they were the first time I saw these things in a lot of cases, and, but the repetition, and and the continuous sort of output of this stuff, I say again, is definitely there with a purpose in mind. And I think whether it be debt slavery or whether it be the control mechanisms that are utilized to sort of curtail people's speech, to curtail your ability to interact with one another and everything else, these things are all prevalent throughout the entertainment industry. And it is something that we all need to be aware of, and I think that it's really great to see that at least we have one comedian on our side here for now, that's still with us. I know you think Russell Brand might be sort of on his way, but a
lot of people I really like Russell Brand. I watched his show Brand X. He brought some of these topics up to the forefront, and the way he dealt with them, I was really impressed. He shook up, some of the, I guess he was on MSNBC or one of those shows, and really pointed out what was really going on and what they were doing and how their media was bunk, basically. I'm impressed with that. I haven't seen any. Now, whether it does address the issue of people saying that he's Illuminati and blah 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 and all this kind of stuff. But he does confront it. But I haven't seen anybody as popular as him being as bold as he is. And I respect that. And so, yeah, really, I think he is the most well-known star that is saying that is having the kind of dialogue that we're having right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, Lee Camp is not a bigger name than he is. So,
but Lee Camp is really he maybe, I mean, he's definitely has a voice and a career based on being one of us, as you would say. And I really like him as well. I really respect what he's doing. There's a lot of comedians out there and entertainers out there that may not be to Russell Brand's level right now, but they're really saying profound things, and they are having this discussion, and they do know what is going on. Problem is most of us are again, it's like having to work for Walmart. I mean, just what I'm saying right now, I'm like, well, I'd probably cancel out being hired there. I don't know. I don't know how much I've put a damper on my career overall. But what matters in the bigger picture? Do you sell out to work for Walmart, or do you stand up and go, I better say something right now, because if I don't, it may be too late. And I'm willing to take that to take that mask off and say, no, I'm here because I'm doing this because I feel I'm of service to it. That this is something I need to do. Whether I don't want to play that game. If they give me an opportunity to go here or there in certain levels, I'm sure I'm going to work. Because no matter where you go, the larger your audience is, the more people see you, the more you have an opportunity to say some stuff that might spur that little thing, that plant that seed in somebody's head, where they're going to laugh at it and go, oh my God, that's right. That's right. So, right now I'm working on doing a one-woman show called Freedom of Joyce. I'm putting that together right now, and that's my next rebirthing into taking this type of step as a comedian.
Right, and everybody, you can find the Freedom of Joyce blog. You can find the Freedom of Joyce. Actually, that's just kind of your trademark on a lot of things. You got the radio show you call Freedom of Joyce. You got the blog. You have the one-woman show that's coming up. Of course, I met Terry Joyce through the Liberty Beacon. That's the Liberty Beacon. I always forget to say that, but it is the Liberty Beacon. And you can find thelibertybeacon.com. Also, I prefer and I like thefallingdarkness.com, which is also associated to the Liberty Beacon. Not just associated, partnered with, just as Terry is. And just as I have turned over all my Tuesday nights to these guys and this lady and a couple other ladies that have been involved in the Liberty Beacon movement as well. I always have a really good time talking to you and to everybody else that's come along. And I really want to thank again Mr. Barry Prince, who stopped by for a little bit and talked about hemp and chaga and a few other interesting topics. Barry's really awesome, and I'm telling you, I could probably just shut off my mic and sit here and just listen to him talk for 2 hours if I wanted to. And we'll definitely have Roger Landry back on sometime very, very soon.
Yeah, he had a Skype issue today, and wasn't able to make it, as well as some an internet connection. He really wanted to be here, and so he sent me a message through Facebook and Skype and said, Terry, can you please? I can't make it. I was like, okay. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem talking in front of my computer for another 2 hours.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time tonight also. And, it's just, I know I can find clips of you on YouTube. I found them on there. I don't know where else you have some of your stand-up and stuff, but I'd like people to go look at that as well.
I do have my blog site with the Liberty Beacon is freedomofjoyce.net. I do have, if you go into the stand-up area on it, I do have a clip of some of my stand-up. Just one on that so far, but I have a YouTube channel which is Terry Joyce, but it's Freedom of Joyce. I've got two. Go to the one that has all the postings on it, because I also re-edit and I tape my monologues that I do during the show on Revolution Radio, and make videos out of that, and also have my shows there. And on Hollywood Hemptress, I have a Hollywood Hemptress YouTube as well, and I've got a marijuana stand-up comedy clip that's about 20 minutes, and then I also have a headliner set circulating around, and several smaller videos that are done, and I'll be adding more very soon.
Yeah, that's the thing. I just kind of search for you on YouTube, and it comes up with a bunch of different things. But I'm glad you pointed out the channels, because I always forget to make note of the channels. I'm one of these guys who surfs around and picks up different things that are associated with different things, and that's how I discover a lot of stuff. But really great again, and I just can't thank you enough. And also, what is your actual title with the Liberty Beacon now?
Well, I am the director for the radio and podcast department, and there's a new internet station that's being created. It's to launch on August 1st, and that's Shake and Awake Radio. And some of a large portion of our new talent will be going to that particular network. So I'm mainly just the organizer of stuff, going to get a calendar situated, so you're part of us too as well, so everybody will know where everybody's at and what their shows are. And we'd have a Facebook page and a group page on Facebook as well, and another online center place for us to be, so that we're organized and anybody at any time can find out what radio hosts are underneath the Liberty Beacon banner.
Right, and I of course post a lot of my stuff, a lot of the Liberty Beacon stuff to the Ochelli Effect on Facebook. You can also find these interviews a little bit later, because I know you're catching them live now, and you can pick up the MP3 from ucy.tv/TOE. But if you missed anything from a while ago, or you want to hear some older ones, I also have the SoundCloud, which you can just look for Chuck Ochelli on the SoundCloud, which is where I'm posting most of my appearances, even to other radio shows when they give me permission to do so as well. I've also posted some music and some other things there, so it's kind of interesting. If you sign up for a SoundCloud account, it's free, and it's just one of those places where there's actually a lot of different radio people and musicians and things on there as well. I don't know if you've been on the SoundCloud, Terry, but
I just kind of discovered the SoundCloud. Is it the SoundCloud or just SoundCloud?
I think it's SoundCloud.com.
Yeah.
But we're back to the old Liberty Beacon or
the Facebook.
But yeah, I just want to let everybody know that one more time. And I'm just about out of time. Let's see. Oh, I was just getting messaged on Skype, so I always get distracted by that. Thanks. But
I know. It's a skill to be able to look at Skype and talk on the radio at the same time. But it's almost part of this process too, as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and don't worry, people. Even if I do somehow wrangle the interview with Larry Wood on Thursday, I guarantee you I'm going to take a few moments to go over that hate mail stuff, because actually, when I said if you're going to send me hate mail, at least make sense, I got a response, so I got to share it with everybody. It's just I wanted to make sure I had time for it, and I didn't want to do it tonight, just in case anybody wanted to call in about it or anything else. So we're going to take care of that. But I think it's going to be one of the funniest things I do when I read this, so I hope you guys will enjoy it as well. I know after me is the continual condition tonight, I think. I didn't check the schedule, but I do really appreciate being able to broadcast on ucy.tv, and of course every Tuesday is the Liberty Beacon night, like I said before, and I really appreciate especially your help now with it, but even in the past, I really appreciate all the people that have come on that are associated and are partners with the Liberty Beacon, because after all, this is the one thing that we all like to say in one way or another. Roger says it's so much better than me, but we didn't get him tonight. The thing is this. We all have to learn to either stand up and speak together, or we shall certainly fall all in different directions. And there is no reason for all of us to fall. So I give you that little bit of encouragement and tell you guys that whether you agree with me or not, stand up, see something, and say something, and not the Janet Napolitano way. Let's try and educate each other one way or another. Let's try and enlighten each other. Let's try and raise each other up as best we can. Because you know what? The more that you contribute to the survival and the, and the betterment of your fellow man, the more you contribute to your own life. Thank you.
Webcam microphone up close.
Webcam microphone up close.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was a...
See, but I have the files. I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? The brain, pistols and fondle slap of choice. I don't know when that was. Doesn't really matter. Internet, professional wrestlers, and not Jesse Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It's hard to get real information because seriously, they don't want you to have degrees to